Everyone, my name is Lindy Rivers. I am a yoga teacher, yoga therapist, located in Tucson, Arizona. I have been teaching restorative yoga for over a decade, and I'm getting ready to teach my first online restorative mini retreat. And as I was thinking of putting together a list of items for my students to kind of collect and have together, I thought it might be more helpful to put together a video that could be helpful to anyone who is doing an at-home yoga practice now, using items at home for various props. I'm going to go through some various options with you. So starting with an eye pillow. So eye pillows are oftentimes used in regular yoga classes at Shavasana. It's a nice way to kind of block out a little bit of light and just provide a little bit of extra kind of support to the eyes. So usually just kind of lie right over the eyes, a little bit more on the forehead than the eyes. It's really lightweight. So if you don't have an eye pillow at home, and eye pillows are usually made with flaxseed, maybe a little bit of lavender. So if you have those items, you can absolutely make your own. They're pretty easy to kind of sew and make yourself. But if you don't have that, some options might be to get maybe the snack size baggies or regular size baggie and just kind of maybe fill only halfway. I have a couple of different options, samples here. So this one is filled with lentils. You could also use some rice or chia seeds, another great kind of idea, right? So, and then whatever option you have, find a hand towel and place that in the middle and fold that up in threes. And that will give you a really lovely little make-at-home eye pillow that you can use for Shavasana or in a variety of restorative poses if you're doing a restorative class or you're creating your own restorative practice at home. The other prop that is used in a lot of classes and minimally sometimes in a restorative class is a block, right? And so many of us have seen these type of foam blocks, or they might be bamboo or cork at yoga studios, right? And there are a couple of different sizes, so it can sometimes be helpful to have a couple of different things from your cupboard that maybe can help you kind of create different sizes of blocks, right? So a few different options. So one thing, if you are doing a restorative practice, you're not going to be moving your props around a lot and you're wanting something really solid, might be to kind of find a collection of books. I kind of prefer kind of hard cover about the same size. When I sometimes teach restorative yoga, I like to put a block at kind of the back of the mat, and we'll oftentimes put a bolster to kind of lean over it to give it a little bit of a nice kind of diagonal. So that could be kind of an option there. And that can be used with a lot of other kind of props, bolster substitutes that I'll show you later. But if you're moving around a lot, this might not be the most practical thing to do. So some other options could be to look at some household products. So some thoughts or ideas might be if you have some oatmeal at home, or if you buy those box soups, you could use a box of soup. This is actually an empty, cleaned out thing of yogurt, but it has kind of a nice solid lid, so that can be kind of a nice way. Another option that someone suggested in an article I read recently about yoga and props at home is a can of soup. And so some kind of thoughts on how you might use these. Let's say you're doing a lunge pose and you want a little extra support. You could have your props on either side of you, and that might kind of just help you kind of stay a little bit more lifted and up, right? If you're doing a standing pose and you're wanting a little bit more support, right, this could be kind of a nice way to kind of have just a place for your hand to go, maybe as you're finding a shape here, right? So giving yourself permission to be creative and look to see kind of, is there a size that might be more helpful to you, right? So a lot of different options when we look at these different items that we might have at home. While I don't oftentimes use straps in a restorative class, I do use straps a lot when I teach yin yoga and in a lot of my other yoga classes. And so you may have seen kind of these straps in your yoga studio. So some things that could replace it could be finding the tie of your robe at home, and so that can make a nice kind of belt, or maybe finding if you have an extra scarf at home that you want to use, that could also work as well. For men, I heard a suggestion if you were to tie two ties together, that could be another way to do it as well. I don't have any way to demonstrate. The bigger items to kind of think about are blankets and bolsters, especially in restorative practice. So a couple of different thoughts and options here. If you have a throw blanket that you have on your couch, that is a really lovely kind of blanket to kind of use. This is a little bit bigger, so you can always kind of fold it up a little bit more narrower to kind of give maybe some more back support or length, right? So lots of different ways to kind of fold it. So that is one really lovely option. Other things that could be helpful, if you have kind of one of those wraps that you might wear a lot, that can also do really well. And this one might be kind of small enough and thin enough that if you wanted to use it as more support for underneath the knees, that might feel really good as well when you're on hands and knees. I really like bath towels, especially as a way to maybe make some rolls that might go underneath the thighs and the legs. So if that's kind of folded in half twice, you might roll it up then. A couple little logs here, blanket logs. One of my friends likes to call these little blanket burritos, or we'll call them towel burritos. So what you could do here is you could bring the soles of your feet together, maybe bring them underneath the thighs and the calves. If you're in a restorative pose, you might lean back on the bolster, or might even be a nice thing to fold forward into for a yin pose. I'm gonna leave those and put those across to the side. Other things you could kind of really think about is, do you have any kind of beach towels or things that you're not using right now? Those can also be great kind of substitutes for blankets. They can also be stacked up as a way to create the sense of a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, have limited maybe pillows or things at home, or you don't have a lot of firm ones. So these could even be stacked up. Maybe you have a few that are kind of closer up, kind of where the head's going to go for a little bit more support underneath the neck here. And then you could even take one and kind of do it along. So you'd have kind of that nice kind of edge and length of a bolster. If you want to do restorative butterfly pose, you might have all those blankets there, some underneath the legs. And that can just kind of be a nice way to be here. Right. And so blankets or towels can be used in lots of ways, and I'll keep kind of showing other ways we can use them. We can also begin to think about, if we do have some bolsters or pillows at home, ways we can use those to support our practice as well. So let's see, maybe you have a smaller pillow. This can be a really lovely thing to use if you're going to do like a restorative fish pose. And you could have maybe one of your little towels up top, and little wraps for your head to kind of go on. This might go underneath your low back. And maybe we use these little towels to go underneath the knees here. And this gives you a nice little kind of gentle back bend with support underneath the neck, right? So that's an option for kind of a smaller pillow at home. You could also use kind of a smaller pillow underneath maybe a bigger pillow, and that could be kind of a nice way to have more of a bigger supported back bend. Lean over this way. And that can be kind of a lovely, nice thing to do. You could also use kind of a bigger pillow like this as a way to kind of do maybe that longer bolster instead of a lot of blankets underneath. You could use that. You could also stack up a number of different pillows. I also have a smaller one off my couch. It's a little bit thicker. And so sometimes you can kind of play with and create kind of even the height that you want. So this could be even nice if you want to be a little bit higher up and do a little twist here. Or another kind of favorite I know is the restorative child's pose. You have your nice stackable things. One other option that I really like a lot, it's a little bit firmer, would be if you have a more of a Tempur-Pedic pillow that you can kind of use as well. That provides a little bit more firmness to it. So I hope this gave you some good ideas of some things that you could maybe look around the house to use as a way to kind of have a restorative practice and to support your body in maintaining yoga practice during this time of quarantine and staying at home. I hope everyone stays as safe and healthy as possible. Wishing you well.